getting to the Olympics required a lot of grit. And that's really what I want to talk about today. What you've endured mentally and physically, then to come on the ice on multiple world-class stages. And to do what you do requires a special type of grit. How do you handle the stress and pressure of life and thrive? How do you handle adversity and overcome it? Today I'm interviewing U.S. figure skating gold medalist winner Danny O'Shea about how he overcame adversity through grit and through trusting Jesus to compete at the highest level in the world. What keeps you throwing? What is it in your brain, in your mind, that you can give us as men to help us when we're fried, when we're in the stress bubble and things are going poorly, or we have tragedy strike? Can you help us? Like, seriously.
I think it all boils down to this, right? I think that it's all about...
Hey, Danny, it's so good to have you on the podcast. I mean, we've known each other for years. I mean, literally 2 years.
Right?
You were at my launch, and it was so fun. I was like a kid in a candy store watching you at the Olympics. So, but before we talk about the Olympics and the Olympic gold that you earned, you won, tell us about yourself, your backstory, things you enjoy, just a little bit more about who you are.
First off, thank you so much for having me. It was, if you thought it was fun watching, imagine how much it was fun doing, right?
I would have been scared to
death. So much fun. So my name is Danny O'Shea. I've been figure skating since I was 4 years old and turned 35 at the Olympics. So 3 decades of my life plus. And I did a ton of sports growing up. I grew up doing football, soccer, basketball, track, kind of all of the normal sports that you go through in grade school and high school. And my dad played football in college, so he coached me in football a ton while I was growing up. And I think that's one of the reasons for my ability to have longevity in sport, because I had cross training from a really young age and have been able to stay healthy. And then as I was going through just my grade school age, you slowly start narrowing down what sports you're doing, and figure skating was always one of them, kind of the odd man out, to be honest, but one that I was excelling at. And as I started high school, that was the year that my parents and I kind of decided that this was the right decision for me to go and focus on. You can be good at one thing or be good at a lot of things or great at one thing, right? So we were like, all right, let's try to be great. And their support through everything has been amazing to me. I've been skating for a long time and been going through many tries at the Olympics and finally made one happen.
So tell us a little bit about your faith.
Yeah, so I went to Catholic school since I was kindergarten, right? And have been very heavily into the Christian faith for the vast majority of my life. When I turned about 19, 20, there was a time where life kind of pulled me away from it for a little bit. I stopped practicing, not really stopped believing, but stopped practicing. And then about 3 or 4 years into living down in Florida, away from home for the first time, I was like, there's something really missing in my life. And I started getting back into going to church. I went to a mega church style church down there. That was like a Christian rock concert when I went, right? And it was interesting. It was very different for me coming from Catholic school and that type of belief. But when I found small groups, when I found men's groups, when I found that type of thing is when it kind of worked for me, and where I was like, this is the direction I need to go. And that, I think it's important when you go through those journeys of like little bit of distance for it to come from within and be like your choice as you move forward into something. Yeah. And since then, it's been such a massive portion of my life. Like my faith is guiding in so much of what I do. And that's why as I start, before we go out on the ice, I say a little prayer, say, God be with me, help me to do your will in everything I do today, and give all the glory to you. And I point up. So it's in everything, and God's plan is truly amazing, as I was able to witness recently.
Yeah, when I watched you do the the cross and then the point up into the air to Jesus, I thought I was so excited because I think there's a boldness in our culture where men who are competing are doing this more and more. But back in the day, there was a time when it was very rare, and so I was just very thankful and excited. One thing I noticed, I was glad that you said that you were raised by a college football dad and that you played football because I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, please.
You look like a giant out there. You look more like a linebacker than a figure. And I mean that as a compliment. Like you go out and you got the bald head and the beard. I mean, everything about you says like I'm a special operator for the government. And so what's the average? I'm curious, man. What's the average height and weight of a male figure skater? And what are you 6 foot? What are you 6 foot 190?
Yeah, right about there. And I think that's well above the average for most male figure skaters, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's a piece of it where you're trying to balance, especially in my discipline of figure skating, where you're trying to balance the ability to have like flexibility and strength, right? So I have to lift someone above my head and carry them around the ice going very quickly, right?
Yes.
I have to throw them 10 feet in the air and catch them, but I also have to still rotate. And if my shoulders get like too wide, or if I'm not able to have quick twitch still, then all of a sudden that ability to rotate 3 times in half a second, it goes away, right? So there's this balance that I have to maintain. And one of the things that I've learned a ton through my journey is that I mix together both body weight, a ton of calisthenic type body weight with heavy lifting in order to maintain the correct balance for me. And then a ton of what I do is just lifting my partner, like repetitions of what we're doing on the ice. We do off ice over and over and over again to get it feel safe and correct. But I do stand out there. That's for sure.
You really do. You really do. And I mean that as the greatest compliment. Okay. So when I was watching you skate, the commentators said you are, and I'm asking you the question, so you don't have to toot your own horn. I'm asking you a question, just answer it. So he said you're one of the strongest figure skaters in the world.
Yeah.
So is that like, talk to me about your strength and is that true? And like, how much do you bench or pull ups? Give these guys a little metric so they can kind of go, wow.
That's a wonderful compliment for sure. And I mean, I think that they're talking specifically about my lifting capability, right? My ability to carry my partner across the ice. And I do that probably better than most figure skaters in the world, at least in the top 3 for sure, right? And that's something that requires a ton of strength, a ton of stability, and in the shoulder and core area, right? So I do a ton of deadlifts, a ton of like clean and jerks, like that kind of thing. I think one of the most impressive things that I do is bottoms up kettlebell, right? So you're holding the kettlebell with the top up here, and I do 34 kilograms walking with it straight up above my head, rotating both directions for 50 yards on both right and left arm.
What's 34 kilograms in pounds? 80?
34 kilograms is like roughly 70, 71, 72. Holy
cow. So, that's a lot. I do kettlebell workouts and I typically stay around 53 pounds. So that's like strong, no matter, that's Division I football strong, right?
Yeah, wow. I think in very specific ways, right? And then working on deadlifts, trying to make sure that I have speed and power through my hamstrings, because like the twist, which is the first element of every program we do, I try to get her like 10 to 12 feet in the air, and then she rotates 3 times and then I catch her. So just trying to create that like clear explosive power, and then also have the maintained strength so that like one of our lifts, she starts standing on my hips and I go up into the air and we spin around 3.5 turns, and then she comes down, she wraps one leg around my neck and I release both arms, and she's there on the neck while I'm spinning before she does a flip out. So it's like a lot of the stuff is like both strength and control, like mixing them. And it's a fine line of trying to find that balance.
And the thing we forgot to mention is while you're flying on ice on a razor blade.
Right.
I mean, it's like we forgot about the razor blade part. Anyway, so I watched the Olympics. You guys had 4 performances, but getting to the Olympics was it required a lot of grit, stamina, and endurance on your part. And that's really what I want to talk about today.
For
You
sure.
know, it's really one thing for a guy like me to go to the gym and have a hard workout or to climb a mountain, but what you've endured the last since 2014, let's say,
Yeah.
or and beyond, or and before that even, but what you've endured mentally and physically, then to come on the ice on multiple world class stages, and to do what you do requires a special type of grit that most of us will never have to be. We will never have to deal with the pressure. And these guys are living that we're talking to on our who are listening to our podcast are living in the stress bowl. There's a lot of stress.
For
And
sure.
I really think what you've done is so outstanding and exceptional. You can help these guys get through. So let's go through to 2014. This is
Mhm.
this year was the fourth Olympic trial that you went through, or and
Yeah.
this is the only one you've been to. So you walk us through your history with the Olympics.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been skating pairs for over a decade now, working my way towards this ultimate dream of going to the Olympics. When I was younger, I was good at figure skating, and then you grow up, right? And all of a sudden I had shoulders and I went through puberty, and everyone was like, well, like you look like you're made to lift a girl, not just do jumps rotating 4 times in the air. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, my high performance director at figure skating was like, we should aim you this way. And my dad had a perfect quote there. He was like, Danny, if you're built like an offensive lineman, you don't try to play wide receiver. And I was like, you know what? Coming from an offensive lineman, I hear you, Dad. So I was like, okay, cool. So we switched into pairs, and it was a hard journey from the beginning. Trying to find the right person to skate with can be difficult. Matching like how you treat each other, how you approach the day, attitude of like attack and being worth it, but then also ability level, and like in my sport, also like how you look next to each other, right? So it's a difficult process of trying to find the right partner. Eventually I did. And my first partner and I went after that first Olympic trial after about 2 or 3 years together in 2014. And we didn't make that first one, but we were young. This was like our first try at it, and we got really close. We actually were able to go to the 4 continents, which is like half the world that happens that same year. And we got second at that the year of the Olympics. So we were like just rising through our peak, and that was a really cool accomplishment for us. That next 4 years after the 2014 Olympics, so from 2014 to 2018, we were one of the best, if not the best, American team throughout that 4 years. We fought with one other team that was also really good, and we were the national champions in 2016.
Wow.
So we were doing really well, and then 2017, my partner had a hip injury, right? So she had to get surgery. We didn't go to that World Championships the year before the Olympic Games, which is where you earn the spots for the Olympics. And the U.S. at that World Championships only earned 1 spot for the 2018 Olympic Games. It was the first time in history that we had only earned 1 spot for those Olympics. So it was kind of devastating knowing that my partner was now recovering from surgery, and we were having to try and fight really hard for just 1 spot with another team that was pretty good, right? And they were very good. Let's be so we fought. We went after it. She recovered as quickly as she could from some serious surgery, and that 2018 national championships, which is the same as our Olympic qualifiers, we were second in the whole thing, and we had some judges, like we won an award for the best long program. Like one of our programs was the best program of the whole event. So we had some people who thought we should have won overall in that, but we were chosen as the first alternates to 2018 in Pyeongchang, and I got to go to those Olympics and sit there like watching from the window to a party you were invited to, and you just have to like watch from outside. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done, for sure, right? And then life goes on. You gotta come home and get back to work, and it's kind of devastating with the amount of like sacrifices and dedication you make in order to try to achieve something like that, and to be that close and not achieve it, you start questioning, like, is this the plan for me? Is this what I'm supposed to do? Should I move on? Right? Like, figure skating is an expensive sport, like a lot of time, money, and like commitment of sacrificing other things with life. I could be trying to start a family. I could be trying to move on with something else in my life. And instead, I'm spending $60,000 to $80,000 a year on a sport, right? Which is not insignificant. So it's hard, but then as we went through, my partner and I broke up during COVID. It was just one of those times where naturally we separated. We were no longer kind of improving. Injuries still kept plaguing her and us as a team. And then I had this like burning desire. I was like, I still need to be out there for this 22 games, right? I need to go after this. It's going to be really hard with a brand new partner, but I'm going to try. So moved across the country, started with a new partner. We were doing really good, like beating teams that we shouldn't be beating in that short of time, and got internationals very quickly. There were 2 spots for that Olympic team. So we're like, there were 2 teams who should be going, but we were like going to try and be an upset, right? And then for those 22 Olympic trials, not too long beforehand, I fell in a competition. I concussed myself, knocked myself right in the back of the head, and I was off the ice for over a month, and that kind of killed our Olympic trial hopes in that moment. So I stepped away from sport for a little bit after that one. I started investing in real estate. I flipped a home and then got into more rentals. And I was like, you know what? It's okay. I'm going to work towards life outside of skating. I put more than 12 years of my life into this at a very elite level. Time for me to move on and do something else. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I prayed about it a lot, and I was watching figure skating because it was kind of a part of my life, even though I left with like kind of a bad taste at that point. I was a little bit like sour on it, and I was watching what was going on, and I was seeing that as I left, a lot of other teams left, and there was an opportunity within the sport. And I had just so happened, my current coach asked me if I would come and help him coach. So I was working with some of the younger skaters, the girls who didn't have partners. I was still staying in shape by lifting them and working them through elements as they tried to learn. And then my current partner, Ellie, ended up not having a partner. She broke up with her partner, and we were like, hey, let's give this a try. It's the middle of the season. It's a really late start, but let's try it. And everything just kind of clicked. Like within 3 days, we were doing almost everything that we needed to do to be competitive at a senior level, except for the throw triples, which you saw at the Olympics are still our hardest element. But within that very beginning, we were kind of rolling on all cylinders and firing on all cylinders. Apologies, rolling in general. Yeah. And we competed not a month later at our first competition, and we won that competition over in Austria, and it just worked, right? That was her first international competition ever, our first competition as a team, and she's still 17. She turned 18 in December, so that was she's young, right? Like brand new to all of this, and was just a rock star from the very beginning. So then that 4 years, like I'll jump to the end, but we can go back to it. That 4 years was filled with a bunch of its own type of hardship more recently. And then like from having her to have to catch up to speed, feel like she was like an imposter a lot of times, going through that kind of thing, and having to, as a 35-year-old man, well, it's not quite 35 then, but like work through it with a young woman who was like going through all of these things for the first time in life, going through life for the first time in so many ways, right? So to take that very seriously and be like guiding her through some of the most formative years of her life. And I'm the
Mhm.
person who spends probably more time with her than even her family, right?
Yeah.
So and I took that very seriously during that time period. And then we dealt with some injuries. We dealt with like the fact that we're very different human beings, and we had to work on communication quite a bit. We dealt with the the fact that I broke my foot 2 days before last World Championships, and we went into that, and I chose to still skate because I needed to earn those spots for this Olympics. I had been through it 8 years earlier, so like that's an intense moment that we dealt with. This off season, I had 2 surgeries, both on my sports hernia and on my foot. I've 2 plates and 11 screws in my foot still. Had months that I wasn't walking before. Now we're leading into this season, and we're going after our Olympic dream. And then we get there. We make it on the Olympic team. We're rolling. We get to the Olympics, and we're competing in both the team event and the individual event. And to the individual event didn't go quite as well as we would like, but the team event was amazing. That's where we won our Olympic gold medal, and where Ellie and I were able to perform the best we've ever performed, landing all of our elements in the program, hitting our personal best scores, and really coming in clutch for the U.S. team in a moment where it was really necessary, because the Japanese team, who got second, they were neck and neck with us for the entire time, and we only won by 1 point overall at the end. So the fact that we got, as Ellie and I as a team got several more points than was expected of us in like the projections, was pretty vital to the team being able to take home that gold.
Gosh, well, that was so cool. Congratulations on the
Thank
gold
you.
medal. It's so fun to watch. And that last Japanese young man who performed and did everything that he was asked to do,
Oh
but he
yeah.
still fell a point short. Oh, and probably because you guys landed that throw triple. So
Yeah.
so when I was watching the event, the commentators were talking about your strength and all this, but they were talking about how much you guys struggled with the throw triple. I think you landed 2 of 6. Is that right?
Uh,
The whole Olympics?
so no, so we landed 4 of 6, but
Oh, okay.
the 2 that we landed in the long program were accomplished the best, and we do struggle with that. That's one of the things that we land the most inconsistently, especially in competition. So
So here's my question. How many times have you attempted that one throw over the course of your training with Ellie?
I
Just a
mean,
guess.
thousands at this point in time, right?
Thousands, and what percent landed?
From the entire 3.5 years,
Yes.
uh, I would say like 35%, and they've been mostly in the past year and a half.
So and she's little. She's 5 foot. Does she even weigh 90 pounds? I mean, she's a little teeny
Yeah,
thing.
something like that, right?
You're chucking this girl. What courage. So
Oh,
you're chucking this girl, and I'm just thinking about this as a guy going, man, a lot can go bad here. You know, you talk about the concussion, you talk about the broken foot, you talk about the hip injury, you talk about all these the hernia from the explosiveness. So everything can go bad, and 70% of the time it does go bad. You've missed 3 Olympics. Now you're at your 4th Olympic. You kind of hung up the towel and went into real estate. I'm thinking about grit right now. I'm thinking about injuries. I'm thinking about loss. I'm thinking about failure. The loss of partners.
mhm.
What is it that? And this is where I really want to transition, because you have what most of us don't have. You have a superpower that is called a world class grit mindset.
Thank you.
I don't know what else to call it. And you made a comment earlier. You say go out. You said several times, go after this.
Mhm.
That to me is a gritty statement. What keeps you throwing? What keeps her throwing? What keeps you after 3 failed attempts at the Olympics to keep going? What is it in your brain, in your mind, that you can give us as men to help us when we're fried, when we're in the stress bubble and things are going poorly, when we lost a job, or
Mhm.
we have tragedy strike? Can you help us? Like, seriously,
Yeah, for
like I
sure.
think you've
So
got something world class to offer us.
uh, I think it all boils down to this, right? I think that it's all about how we view the adversity that we're facing, and this is something that is very important to me, right? I talk to a lot of there's a lot of young para guys at my rink from like 17 to 25, and they're going through that formative time in their life, and I really try to be a mentor to a lot of them. And I think that one of the things that's really important to think about is, what is this adversity doing for me? Not why is this adversity happening to me? How is this adversity that I'm going through making me the man that the world deserves from me? Right? So if we were to create like a sim character, or imagine our future sons, right? Or if you have sons, what type of characteristics would you want this son of yours to have, right? And you say things like the ability to be kind to others. You want patience. You want hard work ethic. You want like a follower in Christ and that faith. And you want like the ability to handle hard things, right?
Yes.
Okay, so those are easy for us to answer. What type of life would you design in this simulation for this imaginary son, or if it is a son that you have, what type of life would you design for them in order for them to earn these characteristics?
Oh,
Earn is exactly what it is, right? Well, it's not one where everything comes easy to them. It's not one where they're never challenged. It's not one where life is just like handed to them on a golden platter. And I think that's where some of us make mistakes, is because we want to give them that, but that's not the type of life that actually designs the type of person that we want them to be, right? So I'm grateful that my Father, Jesus and God, are creating a life for me that is molding me into the type of person that can handle the pressure of the Olympic Games and come out with my best performance ever under the most pressure I've ever been in.
yeah,
Right.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how you have to look at this adversity, right? So last year, let's take that for an example. I was going through most of the year. I had a torn bicep on my right arm that the doctors were like, Danny, you really shouldn't compete this year. And I was like, well, that's not an option. So what can we do to make it happen anyways? Is surgery an option? They're like, no, surgery probably wouldn't fix this because you're just like tearing this way. Like the rope fibers it wasn't like a cut across. It was just, I was doing so much to it that the fibers along the bottom of my bicep were just like, we can't hold on anymore. I was like, okay, well, I can like use it a little less, kind of, right? So I was in pain in my bicep all last season, and I had sports hernia bilaterally last season, where every time I was jumping and having to squeeze my ankles together really strong, there was shooting pain from my groin through my crotch up into my abdomen, which any men can understand is not pleasant, right? And I had to do that multiple times a program for every time I was out on the ice. So I went through last season dealing with all of that pain on a daily basis. And I'm a pretty smiley, positive person, but I was less pleasant to be around dealing with all of that pain last season, 100%. Something that I was dealing with. And I kept questioning, like, why is this happening to me? This is so unfair. It's like the best we're ever skating. And then I just keep getting these roadblocks. Then at the end of the season, 2 days before our world championships, on something I do correct thousands of times, just like warming up off ice, doing a rotational jump and landing that I've done since I was probably 6 years old, right? And I come down wrong on my foot and snap my fifth metatarsal on my right foot, my landing foot, and I'll share with you guys a picture of it, the X-ray, so you can show it. But it's gnarly, right? And I knew in that moment that 8 years previously, I had not gone to that World Championships because of my partner's injury, and we didn't earn the spot for the Olympics. And then I actually didn't go to the Olympics in 2018 because there was only one spot. So I was sitting there trying not to pass out in the locker room, and I was like, I need to find a way to keep Ellie safe, because that has to be my first priority. But if I can do that, I need to find a way to make this happen. And I went through kind of begging somebody to numb my foot up, and then I accomplished that. And US figure skating was like, well, if this is really that bad, you need to prove to us that you're still capable of going. Otherwise, we send the alternate. And I did on Monday morning. So it was on a Saturday. And then Monday morning, I went on the ice, broken foot and all, and proved that it was good enough. And they were like, okay, go. And I spent kind of the entire time that I wasn't competing or practicing at the World Championships. They were in Boston last year, laying in my hotel room, staring up at the ceiling, like praying and begging for my body not to fail me. Right. I was like, I have come too far. I've gone too far. I've done too much in preparation for this moment. But the point is that all of my pain that I went throughout that whole season, I taught myself how to exist within the distraction, how to perform under the distraction of pain. Because at the end of the day, that's really all that pain is. It's something pulling your mind in a different direction and your body saying like, you shouldn't be doing this. And you have to be able to focus through that pain and say, I'm going to do it anyway. Right. And if I hadn't had an entire season of hardship learning how to handle that pain, I don't think in that one moment when Olympic spots for the country are on the line, I would have been able to perform well enough to be fifth after the short program and then be seventh after the long, combined enough of a score with the other U.S. team who was there to earn the U.S. 3 spots for this year's Worlds and the chance at 3 spots for the Olympics, which we didn't actually get, but that wasn't on me.
Okay, so this is so powerful. So I wrote something down. I'm going to just expand a little bit on something you said. I'm going to ask you about this. You said, how is adversity? How do you view the adversity you're facing? And you had a question you asked, how am I going to view the adversity? And then I wrote down this. Tell me what you think about this. Is this true based on what you're sharing? Here's a question I'm thinking. What is adversity doing for me instead of what is adversity doing to me?
100%. Yeah, that's the crux of it right there, right? And when we go through hardships, we act like a victim. It's the human nature. You're like, stop this, hard things, bad things, like get it the heck away from me, right? And in those moments, it's the instinct. It happens. I'm not saying I'm an exception there, right?
Yeah.
But the sooner you can switch your mindset from like, why is this happening to me, to, okay, what is this doing for me? How is this forging me into the type of man that I need to be or that the world deserves from me in the future, right? And it's that mindset. When you can take that and get to that mindset as quickly as possible, it's when you're able to stop reacting to what's happening to you, because reactions are the worst type of actions. And instead you get to plan your action moving forward.
I hadn't told you this, but I had yesterday's my 3-week anniversary of a hip replacement surgery.
Oh, dang.
And so I've been limping in tremendous pain for 9 months. I finally had the surgery. So I'm standing here talking to you right now, but just going through the process right now, I thought, okay, I can either be like everybody else or I can not be like everybody else. So I've not, God helped me, haven't been on pain meds at one time. And I've had a lot of people praying, but I think there's something to that because I'm like, okay, how's your hip feeling? Well, it's a lot better now than it was before. And so based on, when you look at your but that's nothing. That's like nothing compared to having a 5th metatarsal broken or having a concussion or having all these injuries and having to get out and throwing, and you can feel it radiating all the way down through your groin. Oh my gosh. So James 1, I think it's verse 2 says, consider it joy, my brothers, whenever you encounter various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces endurance. It seems to me, and you mentioned the word forging, it seems to me that God's plan for humanity, or for his children who love him, are forging us through trials, pain, and resistance. Do you think that's a biblical principle, or do you think the biblical principle is comfort, heated steering wheels, and air-conditioned homes?
I think you hit that nail right on the head, right? I believe that God forges us into the type of human beings, men and women, that the world deserves of us, and that can bring about his kingdom through adversity, right?
Yep. So you're a 35-year-old man. You are in a relationship now. That
Yes.
we'll see how that goes. But I
Excited
know a
about it.
pastor who can do a ceremony. Just saying. You're in this relationship now. But I'm going to ask you, as a guy with no kids, never married,
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to speak to married dads in the stress bubble with children.
Mm-hmm.
We live, you're going to hate this word. Oh, I know you're going to hate this word. We live in a participation trophy world, man.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody gets a gold medal in our world. What would you say? Well, let's just call it let's just call it a leather medal, because it's not worth anything. So what would you say to the dad who's wanting to forge kids with deep and rich character, who love Jesus and understand that Christianity and God's plan is one that's forging through adversity? What are some tips you would give that dad in raising his 8, 10, 12-year-old?
I mean, definitely, as someone who hasn't had any children yet, it's hard for me to know exactly
Yes.
that experience. But I have coached a lot of people, right? And I believe that from a young age, learning how to be mentally tough is incredibly important, especially in today's world, even more so than ever, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that mental toughness to me is something that isn't like you're so strong nothing affects you, right? Mental toughness is that you have an amazing foundation, and you know that when something rough or some type of adversity happens to you, you know to search for tools to try and solve the problem instead of running away from it. And I think if we can give our kids that type of foundation, that life is gonna be hard. An easy life is not the goal.
Correct.
An easy life is the opposite of what we want for ourselves.
Agreed.
We want the ability to handle a hard life, right? So
yes.
if we can teach our children that from a young age, that difficulties are going to surround us, and when we live a life that doesn't have any difficulties, it lacks purpose, it lacks meaning,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's when people fall into depression.
Yeah.
To me, there are kind of two axes that like life lives on, and they're side by side. There's the happiness, sadness over here, and we think that it exists on top of depression, right? But happiness is the opposite of sadness, and they're fleeting moments that happen every single day, and you should experience both of those fully, right?
Yeah.
But depression is the opposite of purpose.
Oh, whoa. That you got me. Okay, go ahead. That's good.
To me, depression is the opposite of purpose, not a happiness sadness scale. And that comes because we are trying to solve for sadness with happiness, or that leaning into depression. We try to solve it with moments of fleeting happiness, right? You do something that brings you a little bit of joy or an adrenaline rush or dopamine, right? And instead, we need to find meaningful long-term purpose to avoid something that might be causing us depression or lethargy or that like lack of motivation, right?
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot. All right, here we go. Ready? No pressure. You love pressure.
I love pressure.
You got happiness and sadness.
Mm-hmm.
You got depression and purpose. So I'm going to put another bar. So I'm going to give you a third line. I want you to tell me what the opposite is.
Okay.
We live in a world, man. I just got done 2 days studying Philippians chapter 4, verses 6 and 7. And then today was Philippians chapter 4, verses 8 and 9. And they deal with anxiety. And so we live in a world riddled, medicated by anxiety. Sometimes, okay, chemical imbalance, okay. But I think most of the time anxiety, I'm going to say this and I'm going to probably get in trouble. I wrote in my journal this morning that anxiety for a Christian, if it's not chemically based, it's a sin. So if that's my worldview. So if anxiety is at the bottom with depression and sadness,
mm-hmm.
what's at the top level then?
Off the top of my head, the first thing that came up was focus. That's the opposite of anxiety.
So Philippians 4:8 says, whatever is true, noble, worthy of good, good repute, honorable, dwell on these things. So,
mm-hmm.
So basically what you just gave me is a Bible study answer. So I'm going to call that a landing the triple throw.
Perfect. We did it.
Talk to us about
Right.
focus. Talk to us about focus and goal, battling anxiety.
Yeah. So anxiety to me is when you let your mind dwell on too many of the possibilities at the same time, and you lose track of the path forward. Right. Uh, Anxiety is one of those things that you hear nonstop, right? But it's that feeling of fear of not having control. And that fear of not having control comes when we care too much about the us personally controlling the outcome and not giving control to Jesus, not giving control to God,
It's so
right?
good, man. Well, you know
It's
what? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. I was just gonna say it's very important to like hold on to giving it, like offering it up, right?
Yes,
Praying about
it's
it and letting
so
it.
good. Well, I've been pondering this. What's there because Paul writes the Philippian church. He's talking about his concern, his concern, his concern, and then he gets over to Philippians 4 and he talks about worry, anxiety, and gosh, I can't say the word. And he says anxiety, and it hit me. Those two are different. So concern, in my journal, I wrote, concern is an objective assessment that leads to action. I
Yes.
have a broken metatarsal. Quitting is not an option. So I'm gonna. You didn't say it, but shoot up to suit up, right? I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna assess this objectively and make a decision. Where worry is a subjective feeling that leads to inaction.
Yeah.
So that's the difference with anxiety. Anxiety's pathway is to nothing. It's to be paralyzation, where concern is a movement forward. Okay, this is so good, man. It's just so fun to. I mean, you're my son's age, right? You're my oldest son, about the same age as my oldest son. So it's fun to sit at the feet of a young man who's world class and just kind of soak it in. So here's my question for you, man. You had two statements you said earlier. I wrote them down. And I think these really speak to how we deal with adversity. I think these speak to, I mean, we haven't used the word a lot, but grit.
Yeah.
And you said this with your injury, especially your foot. You said, quote, quitting is not an option.
Mhm.
And then you said, I had to find a way.
Yep.
So how, based on your quotes, how would you define this word grit?
So, grit, I think, is similar to resilience, right? It's the ability to keep moving forward through adversity and keep moving forward when things don't, like when the path doesn't seem super clear, right? I think that it's too often very easy for us to take the first off ramp at adversity, right? There's some traffic up ahead. Let's plug it into Google Maps and find the easy way through, right? And I don't think that builds us as men, as like followers of Christ. Like I don't think that the easy way around an adversity is going to build you. And grit to me is choosing to go through it, dwell in something hard, and experience and learn how to be the type of person that has now the tools to solve that problem the next time you come up against it, right?
You know, Brene Brown wrote that grit is the stubborn refusal to quit. And you know, it's funny. You're in a relationship. I've been married 34 years. Your team doctor, Fred Workman, is on my board of directors. If I don't mention Fred's name on this podcast, I'm going to get a nasty text. I'm just kidding.
Fred was vital in me getting through that world championship.
Oh, I mean, Fred is the man. I love Fred. But, you know, Fred has been married about the same time as me. He's had to overcome a lot of adversity with various things in life. And, you know, my wife and I like to joke. We just wrote a marriage book, which I'm going to send you.
I appreciate it.
And then there's a section for singles because you're kind of in that transition.
Right.
But my wife and I like to joke, and you met Shanna. Shanna.
Yeah.
We like to say that we would not be married today if it wasn't for stubbornness and Jesus. In that order.
I love that. No, like it, and I think that's stubbornness and determination are opposite sides of the same coin, right?
Yes.
I truly believe that some of my best qualities are also the qualities, the flip side of them, that I need to work on most, right?
Yeah.
My drive and my ability to like keep going forward, keep going after it is going to be something that I'm going to have to work on to make sure that I know the right time to prioritize relation with my future wife or relation with Jesus, and not be only working, only drive, right? That there's moments in life where your best qualities are actually the things that you're going to have to pray on and work on too. But that stubbornness, as you talk about it, I say, okay, stubbornness is determination with a different mindset about it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that I would say determination and Jesus are the things that kept you guys together, and that stubbornness is what happens when you guys have to talk about it and have a discussion, right?
That is so good. Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Jesus, I don't know if we would have made it. It was because of our faith that we dug our heels in and said we're making. In fact, I got to tell you this, man. This happened to me this morning. My wife came in to the downstairs. I was reading my Bible, and she said, "Hey, I got some horrible news. One of her best friends, husband, wrote a note to the kids, note to the wife, and just left her. Christian couple. The guy used to be a pastor, and I just it's horrible, horrible, horrible. But I'm going, okay, what?" And so I went up into the room. She's in the mirror, kind of wrecked. And I just kind of put my arms around her. I said, "Hey, listen," I go, "I've got too much invested in you. I'm not going anywhere." So, I had to make her feel safe in my arms. But,
Sure.
but we talk about those who hang in there and fight for their marriage and those who don't. We talk about those who quit and those who don't. We talk about those who experience, happiness, and those who dwell in sadness. And in the Olympics, we can't even use the Olympics as an accurate judge between how somebody gets a silver versus a gold, but we can probably say, what's the difference between those who get to your level, all things being equal? What's the difference between those who get to your level of excellence and those who don't? Have you noticed a separation of sorts?
Yeah. So after leaving the Olympics, I was actually talking about this with my coach. It was something that stood out to both of us, that we were at the Olympic Games, and over the entire month that we're there, because we were there from January 28th all the way through to February 23rd. So
Oh, wow.
A long time that we're there, and in the midst of some of the best figure skaters in the world. Well, the best figure skaters in the world, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And within the pair community and within our camp of young pair skaters, it's very common to have to deal with moments like it is with any relationship, male, female, and we're skating together. We're doing a sport together. The adrenaline, the intensity, the way we approach sport is very different. So how we communicate can be different. And you see, especially with younger athletes, a lot of like headbutting and like, they're not treating me right, or they're not working hard enough, or a lot of pointing, a lot of blaming, a lot of issues in the course of a year. Not one argument, not one moment where you didn't see someone supporting their partner, not one moment where there was any sort of issue. A full month of the best of them. And I was talking to him, and I was like, is that like because we're at the Olympics, everyone's on their best behavior? And we were like, no, actually, we think that the type of people who can work together without having those type of issues, who can not point fingers and blame someone else for an issue, who can go through working really hard and supporting your partner if they fail, if they make a mistake, and building them back up, not leaving them there, and also celebrating each other's successes together. That's the kind of people who make the games. It wasn't that the games were this magic bubble where all of a sudden it didn't happen. It's the type of people who are capable of communicating properly, supporting each other fully, and trusting in their partner fully that can reach that elite level. So I think that was a very interesting thing, and something we were like, we need to commit to making our teams those types of people and empowering them with those skills in order to achieve that level of excellence.
Wow. I mean, you just drew a line of demarcation. I mean, so I'm going to go back to earlier in the podcast. You said how asking the question, what is adversity doing for me versus what is adversity doing to me? Okay. So if we switch that up and add the word partner, what is my skating partner doing for me versus to me? What I hear you saying is this: the highest achieve. Gosh, this is so powerful. I'm going to say the statement, and you tell me if you know where I'm at in this.
Mhm.
The highest achieving figure skaters on the planet, when adversity hits, they look in the mirror and not out the window. In other words, they don't look to blame their partner. They look in the mirror and they handle it in a healthy way instead of blaming. Is there a blame adversity correlation?
Yeah, I think that's very true. Like, how can I solve this? How can I improve myself to handle this? And then, in addition to that, how can I accept help from this person who is right next to me and in a marriage doing life with me, right? So I think that I've gone through far more intense adversity and like injuries and trying to perform in front of tens of thousands, if not millions of people, right? Like the who knows exactly what the numbers are in the Olympic Games, but they're rather high, and those types of situations are going to bring out either the best or the worst in people, right? That type of adversity, and if you haven't prepared yourself along the way, uh, it's gonna bring out the moments that you see that type of argument. And for no one to have had a moment like that, I think is very clear that these are the type of people who are not going to point fingers and blame, but who are going to say, how can we solve this? How can it be us facing the problem, solution oriented in this, instead of facing each other with the problem and like being the other person, right?
I'm laughing here. I'm going to do a horrible job as an interviewer. I'm just laughing right now because you just explained the incomplete plot change in the movie The Cutting Edge, right? Because all she ever did was blame everybody, and then she gets this hockey player who's built like you and who's like, "Stop being a big baby. It's your fault." You know, so I couldn't help but think about that. But let me say this, you know, toe pick. Anyway, let me say, I just kind of have a random thought sometimes. I'm so sorry.
No.
I have a question for you. When you're out there on the ice, you make the symbol of the cross, you point up to the Lord. Is there, I mean, you're on the ice. That means you've gone through all of it and you're on the spot. And I had to fly to Colorado Springs for an interview with Focus on the Family while you're at the Olympics. And I'm sitting in the airport, and who's heading to the Olympic Training Center? The U.S. gymnastics team. Mm-hmm. And my wife and I were talking, and because we were talking about you, because we know you, and I said, I think, in my opinion, the two most pressured events in all of the Olympics have to be figure skating and gymnastics. Now, I may be wrong; they're all pressure. I'm not diminishing,
for sure.
But that's a situation where you're in a situation where everybody's watching and maybe diving, right? Diving. Mm-hmm. You know, but it's just, is there a verse that you go to? Is there something that you do in the final moments before performance to quiet your soul? You know, do you have a go-to Bible verse, anything like this?
No, there's not a go-to verse, but I just try to converse with him in the most real way possible in those moments, right? I try to sit there and usually I'm standing, right? I've put my skates on. I got the whole outfit on. We're getting ready. There's normally like 5 to 7 minutes after I'm like set and ready that I'm gonna go out there and I'm gonna share that moment with Ellie, and I'm gonna give her everything that I have and make sure that we're ready as a team. So I try to prepare myself for that first. And I sit there and I say, I love competing. And I'll start repeating that. I say, you know this about me. This is the moment that you've prepared me for, right? Help me do your will, show others your greatness through me, and trust in you and in the training, right? And in that feeling of that calmness, trying to just have a conversation with God, that I trust you, I believe in you, I'm not doing this on my own, and it's not for me, right? I feel the calm come over me, and then I dive into all those feelings of jitters, all those feelings of excitement, the You get the butterflies in your stomach, you get the yawn, and you have to choose those and say, okay, thank you God for preparing me, right?
Yeah.
You're making my body, the jitters, the butterflies. This is God telling my body to be ready for something that I care about, right? That yawn is God telling, bring more oxygen in so that your body can do what it needs to do in this moment, right? So you take that and you reframe it as, thank you, God for preparing my body. And it's those moments of really just like reframing everything into, this is a positive thing happening for me. And then I step out there and I look at my partner and I tell her, we take a deep breath together and we regulate that breath so that we're on the same page. We hold hands in this moment. And then I say, I trust you. We got this. Go out there and have a little bit of fun. That's all, though. Only a little bit. And we laugh about it, right? Yeah. And then we walk towards it with joy in our hearts and trust in each other and trust in God.
So based on what you said to me, I'm going to quote a verse. This is kind of my go-to verse back in the 1,000 years ago when I was competing in sports. Colossians 3:23 says that whatever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord, for it is the Lord Christ you are serving. What does that verse mean to you in the context of competition?
I love that. Heartily.
Or some translations say with all your heart or wholeheartedly. It depends on the translation.
For sure. But I think that's so clear, right? Because your heart has to be in the midst of everything you're doing, everything that's important to you, at least, right? You have to be doing with heart, like with gumption, with grit, with intensity, but also with love, right? And I think saying wholeheartedly kind of combines the two of those together and is incredibly important. And then moving towards God and for him and with him in that moment, right? So I had a plan for my life, right? I had planned that I was going to go to the Olympics 8 years ago and that I was going to get there at 8 years younger and then be able to move on with my life and build towards other things. And my plan for myself was so insufficient and worse than God's plan for me.
Yeah.
God's plan for me. And when I finally started like just believing that I could give up the control, that I could trust, these past 4 years have been the best skating years of my life, the best in finances, the best in now I have someone that I believe will be with me for the rest of my life, and my girlfriend. That all happened in 2026 too, right? This year has been God coming to fruition and his plan coming out in me, making the Olympics, starting to date Marin, and then moving on to the Olympics, having the most fun. I think I won the gold medal for the most fun at the Olympics too, because every single day I could not stop smiling. It was surrounded by the Olympic spirit, and it was like a big summer camp with people who you don't necessarily know, but some that you get to hang out with, and all the different sports. Hockey players were great guys and gals, and it was such a fun experience. And then to come home with an Olympic gold medal, God's plan for me was so much better than when I tried to control everything, right? I think that's what that verse means to me. Go forward wholeheartedly with love and trust in him.
Yeah, it always goes better when we're in his will. And I love, one of the things that reminds me of that verse is when you make the symbol of the cross, Jesus had the stubborn refusal to quit. He crawled up on that cross. He took our pain. He bore our sins. He bore our shame. Man, don't we owe it? I mean, I know that we're saved by grace through faith, but don't we owe it to him to give him our best and then give him the credit when things go our way?
Yeah, completely.
Gosh, so good, man. Hey, I'll tell you what, this has been so good. I've learned a lot. I'm going to go have a whole other outlook. And I never thought about the yawning was your body was getting prepared, because I'm a yawner.
Oh yeah.
So I have the yawn, the butterflies, and the runs. So I have 3, and you have 2.
Yeah. I'm in there too. That's part of the prep.
Yeah, it's tough when you're like in your outfit to get those tight things off. But that was really enlightening that's God's way of preparing you. I never thought of it that way. This has been a great conversation, man. I am so excited. Really you don't have to answer this question, all right? You don't have to answer.
Okay.
We're gonna make an Olympic run for 28.
So 28, no, because that's the Summer Olympics.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That would be fun. But 30, Honestly, I have to pray on it quite a bit first. It's not a discussion I've even had with Ellie yet, and I feel like my body would be capable, but I have to decide whether that's the right decision for my life moving forward. And I'm excited. We have world championships in a week from Friday we leave. So we're still competing this season, and we're going to wait until after world championships to sit down with Ellie and my coach, Drew, and really have an in-depth conversation on what the future looks like. But so we have world championships in Prague. We leave on the 20th for that. And then after that, Ellie and I have 2 months on tour with Stars on Ice, which will be pretty cool. It's traveling around the whole country, and it's all of the U.S. Olympic figure skaters will be on there. So it'll be a pretty cool thing.
Okay, I'm a skating fan. I'm not a skater.
Yeah.
Tell me, honest question here. Are the Worlds a bigger event than the Olympics?
No, Olympics are definitely a bigger event.
Okay.
They only happen every 4 years, but we have our world championships every year. So even in the Olympic year, we need to do that because it determines, like I said, the spots you get for Worlds the next year for your country. It determines how, if I were to continue, if I would get Grand Prix spots, which is like our World Cup or something like that, right? In other sports. So it's very important at determining the next season, but a lot of teams who go to the Olympics and know that they're going to be done don't participate in the World Championships that year. So we might actually have an even better chance at doing well at World Championships, which is also a factor in why we are going to go. And
so I may be wrong on this. You got 7th in the pairs non-team event, right? 7th.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming going for a gold here, huh? All right.
That would be amazing. Why not, right?
Are you positioned for it?
I think that if we skate the way that we performed in the team event, I think that we have every opportunity to be going after definitely a medal and probably gold. So,
man, I'm excited. I'm excited for you. I appreciate you jumping on so fast. This was a real fast turnaround. And man, God bless you. Keep being a witness. And this, heck yeah, baby. Thanks a lot, bro. Appreciate you.
Yeah, God bless you too. Thank you so much for having me.
Until next time, feel the wet sound of the arena floor. Hear the deafening roar of the crowd. Taste the sweetness of victory. Smell the stench of battle. Get in the game. Get dirty. Grind it out. Live through adversity. And be a man.